The Oculus Rift and HTC Vive are of course officially out on the market now, whereas the HTC Vive has actually been doing fairly well for itself and seems to be getting into the hands of gamers fairly easily. The Oculus Rift has kind of had the opposite problem, where they've had major shortage problems, and them prioritising retail over pre-orders hasn't exactly helped things. Another thing that hasn't exactly helped them is their sort of practice of offering developers a lot of money to make them exclusive to their service, or even going so far as to help them make the game and then say, hey, if we do this, it has to be exclusive to Oculus. When you consider that VR is basically just another different form of display, it's a little silly. Now, apparently, the Serious Sam VR game, The Last Hope, that we had revealed at E3, was actually potentially going to be Oculus Rift exclusive, or at least it could have been, because Oculus VR offered Crow Team a quote-unquote shit ton of money to make Serious Sam VR an Oculus exclusive. Crow Team obviously declined, and they basically said that good games sell by themselves, make profit in the long run regardless, and they don't like exclusives very much. Which is fair. Exclusives are annoying but needed in the console space. In the VR space they seem really silly, given, again, that it's another form of display. Now, Valve frontman Gabe Newell weighed in on this particular matter in an email posted to the Vive subreddit, which was then later confirmed to actually be sent by Gabe and not just an imposter or whatever. And basically he was asked whether or not Valve would ever consider doing similar things that Oculus have been doing with exclusivity for the Vive headset. And this is what he had to say. He said, quote, "We don't think exclusives are a good idea for consumers or developers. There's a separate issue, which is risk. On any given project, you need to think about how much risk to take on. A lot of different forms of risk: financial risk, design risk, schedule risk, organizational risk, IP risk, etc. A lot of the interesting VR work has been done by new developers. That is a triple risk whammy. A new developer creating new game mechanics on a new platform. We're in a much better position to absorb financial risk than a new VR developer, so we are happy to offset that, giving developers development funds, essentially prepaid Steam revenue. However, there are no strings attached to those funds. They can develop for the Rift or PlayStation VR, or whatever the developer thinks are the right target VR systems. Our hope is that by providing that funding, that developers will be less likely to take on deals that require them to be exclusive." Make sense? Now, on one hand, you can kind of see where Valve is coming from. That seems a pretty smart plan. You know, the developer, after having gotten a sack for the cash from Valve, yeah, they aren't forced to only release it for the Vive or whatever, but they'll probably be sort of more keen to release it on their platform, given that Valve have basically funded their project, but they are free to upload it on whatever platform they say fit. That seems a pretty reasonable way of doing things. Now, that's not to say that Oculus are like the devil or anything for doing what they've been doing. I don't really like their practices in terms of exclusives, to be honest, and a couple of other things they've done have kind of put me off buying their device, to be honest. But it is a shame that they felt they need to do that, but at the same time they want exclusives for their system, but exclusive seems again a little silly when we're talking about a display device. It's like saying that a game is exclusive to a certain type of monitor or a certain keyboard or something. It's a peripheral, and it doesn't really fly the same way that a console will, to be honest. It's not the same thing. So yeah, it's a little strange, but again, you can see why. Exclusives do sell things, but I think just having a really good device would also be good. There's been plenty of people who've gone to Vive simply because their devices are actually available for you to buy. If you buy one, you get one within a couple of days, and there are still people waiting for their pre-order Rifts. So they probably should focus on that before they start doing things like, hey, do you want to be exclusive? Either by funding a thing directly or by offering developers a sack ton of cash, which is probably quite hard to say no to. I mean, obviously Crow Team did. Thanks, Crow Team. Best thing ever. Cool. Continue with your good work. But not every developer is going to be able to do that. You know, sometimes you kind of have to because, well, we need it. And sometimes, you know, that giant sack of cash is too hard to pass up. So I don't really like Oculus' practices. I'm more on Valve's side here. And of course, you know, they are putting themselves in the position to be screwed over, where people could take their money and then go to Facebook anyway. But if they did that, what kind of position would they be in? They would have just screwed over Valve. That doesn't really seem like a wise decision, to be quite frank. So there you go. Anyway, that is me done for this video, but do let me know your thoughts and opinions as always. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.